Hello, and welcome to the Gazette Podcast. I'm your host, Lizzie Bianco, and I'm thrilled to be joining you here from behind the mic for our second episode featuring peer recovery mentors Austin Johnson and David Claros. Austin and David are known as somewhat of a dynamic duo here at the RCDA, and listening to their interview is sure to make you think the same. Before we dive into what Austin and David have to say, I do want to add a small disclaimer that the audio quality during the first few minutes of their interview is not the best. But even so, I urge you to stay with us until the end, because what they have to say is worth listening to at any quality. I'm a community liaison, not an audio engineer. And remember, folks, this is just episode 2. It's only up from here. Without further ado, I offer you David and Austin's intriguing interview. Good morning, Austin and David. Thank you guys for joining me today. How are you doing?
Good. Good morning.
Before we get too far into anything, I think it would be helpful for you to explain what your roles are in the office, because people may not be familiar with the job that you both do here.
My name is David Claros. I am a peer advocate here for the district's attorney's office. One of our main goals is to help individuals that's incarcerated or to basically try to get them into treatment or the mandated program, making sure they're doing everything right. As advocates, recovery coaches, and mentors, we are professional individuals with lived experience.
My name is Austin Johnson. I'm a peer advocate at RCDA. Just to piggyback on what David Claros is mentioning, because it's hard, whether they're coming out to arraignment, it's a lot going on mentally. So our role is able to give them some sort of comfort. I mentioned that, it's okay for them to, accept the offer and they can get a lot out of it. We have numerous programs that we deal with, which is tax, hope, plan, and also when they run into any difficulty with the clients, usually the judges, Koshi, all the ADAs that are assigned usually reach out to us so that we can be assistive and engage, and that's what's most important. Because a lot of times, first thing they want to do, oh, no, I'm not taking it. They want to fight the case. But at the end of the day, they suffer from substance use disorder, mental disorder. So they want someone that they could relate to, and that's when we come into play and connect them to the treatment offer that they have.
Coming from where we come from, we know how hard it is, especially like having stuff on your record. Coming into a court setting, we know how intimidating it is. So me and Austin being from that side too. We able to break down that wall and make them feel comfortable and just let them know that you also have people just like you in this court setting helping you out.
So what you've both already touched upon is that you do work in our alternatives to incarceration unit. So this is when people that commit a crime, and as Austin noted, might have issues with substance abuse disorders and mental health disorders, when it seems like just incarcerating them and sending them to prison isn't the most appropriate decision. That's when we offer those treatment programs, like you said, and you're there to help people along in that process of accepting the offers for these treatment programs. And something that you both noted now is that you have your lived experience. So do you mind sharing a little bit about what your lived experiences are that make you able to connect with people that are now going through these programs?
As for myself, I'm in recovery, coming up on 8 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Substance use disorder for a long time, which contributed in me getting in trouble and getting, legal trouble. I did some time in prison. Unfortunately, the opportunities that the individuals have today, that wasn't there for me. I wasn't given any offer. So I'm extremely grateful today that we have these programs that we have to offer, the alternative incarceration. There was no alternative to incarceration for myself, and I had to go through, do hard times and stuff. The main thing is that it was a learning experience for me, to where I'm at today. And I can always identify what the individuals are going through today because I've been there. A lot of times it's like, okay, I'm going to prison. I went in and out a few times. And towards the end, I said, what am I doing wrong? And the main thing was that I kept using. So if I'm getting high, I got to do things to be able to maintain my addiction. I was using heroin. So the biggest fear of heroin user is going through withdrawals. So I don't want to go through withdrawals. So I'm going to do whatever it takes to get money to maintain my addiction. So today I stay focused on myself first, my mental health, physical health, and stuff. Self-care is important. That gives me the strength to come in every day and be able to be there for the individuals that going in and out through the revolving door and tell them, listen, I've been there. I can do it. You can. And a lot of times we disclose. But back in the days, it was like you're not supposed to disclose. So today I'm free as a peer mentor to disclose being in there, sleeping on the floor, drinking black tea with bologna and cheese sandwiches and stuff like that. Not wanting to eat because I had no appetite, going through severe withdrawals. I've been through that. So at the end of the day, me connecting with what they're going through, the last thing you want to hear coming out from arraignment is, we got a treatment offer. No. The only thing I'm looking at is the next bag of heroin. You understand what I'm saying? Whatever I'm using, the next bottle. My experience is carrying me a long way, and it gives me strength. And then being realistic too, because I was homeless too towards the end. And I can relate to that. I don't have nowhere to go. Now I don't have no money. Everybody's trying to get back on me. Now I'm in the streets. Today I'm grateful just for simple things, just for having housing, having a job, which I'm grateful to be a part of this team. What I went through is carrying me a long way.
As for me, my learning experience came from my environment. Growing up in Brooklyn, the area was Bushwick, which is growing up was like a low-income, middle-class area. Was very diverse. I ended up becoming a product of my environment because there was nothing around to help us get by, no resources, not seeing anything except drug dealers and drugs heavily infecting my neighborhood. Like I tell people all the time, before I probably could read books, I already knew what classifications of drug was, like the difference in drugs, just from me going into my hallway or me going outside. I had both my parents, and they come from a third world country, and they was working all the time just to give us a little bit of what we needed. Once I came outside, it wasn't like no picket fences, no houses around me. All we see was probably like liquor stores, laundromats, bodegas in every corner. As soon as I come outside, all I see like people hanging in corners and dressing nice. And growing up, that's what I started gravitating to. And I was thinking like that was life for me, not seeing what else is outside of my world. I started smoking marijuana at an early age, about 13 years old, which led me to other things. By the time I hit 16, 17 years old, I was already heavily involved into pills, the party scene, which definitely put me in a wrong path. And I ended up starting to get into a bit of trouble around my neighborhood. And like I said, I thought that was my reality because everybody around me was already facing the same things I was facing. I didn't have any friends that was like going into college or doing good in school. Everybody already had cases by the time they hit 14, 15, 16. My older brothers, they were already in the criminal justice system by the time they turned 13. They was in Spofford. I grew up 3 boys. I'm the youngest. We're all a year apart. And we all started getting in trouble. As I got into like my mid-20s, I ended up catching a violent offense. And then I ended up getting arrested for it. I was also facing some years. I was saved by alternative to incarceration program. So I had my cases in Brooklyn, and they offered me, hey, instead of you doing this time, this is your first offense. Why won't you take this program, which is a year? I ended up taking that program. I only took it, honestly, because I just didn't want to go forward with the case. I still didn't know where my life was headed. But I was so thankful for the alternative incarceration program because after that, it pushed me into a direction where I am now. I ended up picking up stuff and volunteering so I won't have to do like extracurriculums basically for that program and just to get by. But in actuality, it was paving the way for me. And like, I didn't even know that this was going to be what I wanted to do. So I took everything that I learned from my environment and I turned it into something positive. I'm able to come in court, bring my lived experience, talk to people and even kids that they won't have to go down the same path that I went through. And I could relate with them. When they see a person like me in the court setting, it shows them that, hey, I definitely could do it as well. So this is why me and Austin's positions are very important in the court system, because we do offer that type of hope for individuals that's struggling and just need a little push.
You mentioned your ability to offer hope to individuals in your role, David, and that's a very apt assessment since one of the largest alternatives to incarceration programs offered through our office is actually called the HOPE program. Let's check in with DA McMahon to learn a bit more about how that program got started. I'm here with our favorite district attorney in the state of New York, Mr. Michael McMahon. Mr. DA, how are you today?
I'm great, Lizzie. How are you?
Doing well, especially now that we're here on episode 2 of the Gazette Podcast, which I think is a very interesting one. 2 of our peer recovery mentors featured as our guests this month, and they spoke a bit about their roles and the work that's done in the Alternatives to Incarceration Unit. Seeing as you are the district attorney that brought that unit to fruition here at the RCDA, we wanted to take a moment to talk to you about the ATI unit and some of the initiatives that you have spearheaded in your time here.
Gee, that's great. I just got back from the courthouse. I was over in court, and we were giving out graduation certificates to about a dozen individuals who were graduating, if you will, from our Hope 2.0 programs. And they were individuals had been arrested, agreed to put the prosecution in abeyance together with my team, of course. And for roughly 90 days, they meaningfully engaged in programs that were tailored for them individually. And they were successful. And we had a little graduation in the courtroom. Isn't that great? And Judge Bijou Koshi did a great job in dismissing the cases and congratulating the participants. And we had a nice crowd there. Austin himself was there as well because he and David oversee this. And so it's a great success. So what a great coincidence that we're talking about this today.
Very timely indeed. I think that the graduation this month is a perfect opportunity to talk about the work that's being done in the Alternatives to Incarceration Unit, and especially with the HOPE programs and these different opportunities that are presented to people where having them incarcerated may not be the best approach to rehabilitation or making them functional and productive members of our society.
Or hold them accountable, right? Because two parts of the equation. We need to hold people accountable, but we also want to give them a path out of recidivism and towards success. And so that's what this does. It's got that 2 parts to it because they do have to show up for the program. They have to meaningfully engage. That's the term that we invoke. It's great to see. And you talked about our Alternatives to Incarceration Unit, and it really has grown into a full unit with a bureau chief and a staff, peer mentor, peer navigators, and a clinical social worker and analysts who work on it as well. But it really just started as our HOPE program. When we came into office in 2016 and we saw that there was a terrible opioid epidemic on Staten Island, and we had to address it in a multi-pronged approach. There was more precision prosecution and going after the drug dealers, but it was also looking at people who were suffering from addiction illness and who were getting arrested again and again for possession, maybe possession with minor sales just to fuel or pay for their addiction. And we wanted to do something different. And at that time, what was in place was called drug treatment court. And the way drug treatment court would work is that you'd be arrested, arraigned, go back to court a few times, there'd be conferences and motion practice. And at the end of the process, maybe 6 months, 8 months down the road, you would plead guilty to a certain charge, and then you would be connected to services. So you had a big gap there, 6 months, 8 months, 9 months. And with the advent of fentanyl, we were seeing that people during that period of time using again, overdosing, and sadly in many cases dying. So we needed to front load, if you will, the access to treatment and programs. So we wanted to do it right at the time of arrest or at least at arraignment. And that's what the original HOPE program did. The peer navigators were dispatched to the police precinct. Someone who had just been arrested for possession, they would be met there and the program would be explained. And that really became the foundation of the HOPE program, which is heroin overdose prevention and education. And it's grown now to make offers of a better path for people who not only suffer from addiction illness, but also mental health illnesses, poverty, breakdown of the family structure, education problems. So it was really a seed that we planted in the name of HOPE. We watered it with the hard work of incredible police officers, prosecutors, social workers, and the likes. And now it's grown to our Alternative to Incarceration Unit, which about 40% of the people in Staten Island who get arrested get an offer of diversion. So it's very exciting to be part of it and to see it grow. And I was so thrilled to be with you in the courtroom to see the graduations, and we're going to keep working on it.
Absolutely. Mr. DA, you mentioned that it's essential for participants to meaningfully engage in these programs, but you didn't stop the idea of engagement just with those that are participating in the program. That's something that you extended to the entire Staten Island community, whether or not they've realized it. I'm sure that many of the people listening have seen those yellow and black lawn signs spread throughout the island that read Staten Islanders Against Drug Abuse. Do you mind telling us a bit about those signs, how they came to be, and what their purpose is?
Sure. Well, any Staten Islander knows that any good political campaign uses lawn signs. And notice I say lawn signs, not illegally placed signs on telephone poles, because that is still an offense against the law. And anybody who puts up those signs illegally, please know that the DA is looking to take them down and looking to hold you responsible. But
I promise he is.
yes, as you know, we have a cleanup coming soon, right? But these are lawn signs or signs that go on people's property with their permission. And the idea was, when we started this whole program, which was really, I think, an enlightened approach to the issue, we had to make sure that the community that we're serving was on board and supported it, because you can't be successful in policing and prosecution unless you have the support of the people. So we needed to make clear to people that the approach we were taking wasn't, quote unquote, soft on crime. It wasn't letting people off. But the idea was that we were holding them accountable in a more meaningful way. And also, the addiction illness problem was not somebody else's problem. It was everybody's problem. We were having overdose deaths reported in Park Hill and Toad Hill, Princess Bay and Port Richmond, Rosebank and Rossville, across the island, all different demographics, young, old, in the middle. And so we wanted to let Staten Islanders know that if they have somebody in their family who suffers from addiction illness, we've got connections to resources. If someone they love has been arrested, reach out to us. We'll try to get them into treatment, hold them accountable, but have a meaningful outcome and make sure that they meaningfully engage. And so it was really part of a campaign. And as I said in the beginning, any campaign on Staten Island, you can't be successful without a good lawn sign, as I've learned from the political arena.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. DA, for sitting down with us once again and shedding a bit of light on our HOPE program.
Thank you very much.
I'm here again with David and Austin, and we're jumping back into our conversation discussing the impact of your roles and the lived experiences that influence the way you carry those roles out. And something that you said, David, was taking what would be a really challenging and difficult time in your life and making it into something positive, which brings me to my next question. Both of you have been on what we'll call the opposite side of the judicial system, and now you work for the district attorney's office. Oftentimes, when you speak to people that have had brushes with law enforcement and the legal system, they may not necessarily have such fond feelings about it. But now, here both of you are working for a law enforcement agency. What motivated you to explore careers in this realm, and what brought you to our office?
So as for me, I always say I kind of fell in this position. I was offered a turning into incarceration treatment program with Fortune Society. So I was doing things just so I could just put the case behind me. And eventually me doing that, I started volunteering in some substance use and mental health agencies, which really opened my eyes because, like I said, growing up in the area I grew up with, we was always taught survival skills. Don't trust nobody. When you get arrested, don't even trust legal aid because they work with the court system. They work with the prosecutor's office. After I volunteering for maybe a year, I ended up working for this nonprofit called Chassis. And then I worked for them for about 4 years and didn't know that I had these skills. And I started from a low entry level position. I was handing out flyers and trying to get people tested for HIV. I was in the community a lot. I used to bring a lot of people for services. The agencies started seeing that and started telling me, you have a gift for this. You come from this type of community. You can interact with these people that other people can't interact with. So I ended up liking what I do, coming in every day and being more involved until eventually I was put in a court position off of that nonprofit program. If people didn't accept a court mandated program, I would wait for them, literally chase them outside, out of the courtroom, and wait for them and tell them, hey, I might have a program that you might join. So then eventually, attorneys incarceration program opened up in my agency that I work for. They threw me right in. After working with that population, working for court, I already knew it was something that I had to get out to my community and let them know, hey, we have a prosecution office that have this internal incarceration unit that are there to help people with substance use and mental health. So instead of them arresting people and just giving cases or prosecuting cases, it's like, listen, this is a revolving door. Let's just try to give them help where they could receive help and they won't have to come back through the revolving door. Coming from the other side, not the prosecution side, I felt everybody was just against me. And now being on the prosecution side, it showed me that it wasn't what I thought. It showed me that, you have good people here helping. Instead of how everybody thinks the DA's office just prosecuting cases, just want to see people arrested. That is not true. You have people in here, especially with the DA, that cares about people that's struggling with a substance use disorder, that's struggling with mental health. And instead of putting them in jail, which is not really going to help them, let's put them in an environment where they have support, an environment where they could get the things that they need and the resources that we didn't have so they could prosper in life and don't have to come through these doors. Working with my unit, because it's just not me and Austin, it's a whole unit of us. It's a whole group of us. We all have our unique roles, but we all come together and help the individual with substance use disorder, with a mental health disorder, so they just won't come back and through the system.
So for me, the people I grew up with in my environment, I grew up in the Bronx. I'm Dominican. And one of the things that happened was that I was selling marijuana in Catholic school. So they threw me out of the school. Of course, my parents wanted to kill me. We paying all this money. So from then, that's when I started getting in trouble. And when I went to prison, the judge told me that I can complete school. And while in prison, first time I went to the parole board, they gave me more time. And the people from the parole board stated that I'm part of the problem in our community, not the solution. And that's one of the things that motivates me the most today, because they made me feel like I'm never going to amount to nothing, and because of my past experience, I'm able to do what I had to do. How I got here to RCDA was David and I worked for the same organization, and I had my case active, so I was working for a residential program. My case active expired, so I had to take the recovery coach training. That's how I got to the organization. So in there, I started as a regular peer mentor. Then I got a promotion to administrator on duty. David and I, because we have mutual clients connected, and through David and Lauren, they mentioned that there was an open position here if I want to apply for it. So I was like, okay, send me the information. I'll let you know. My mentor, let him rest in peace. I spoke to him about that. He was always big on research. Let's do a research on what this alternative to incarceration is about. So we looked at all the programs. I was like, wow, I wasn't given this opportunity. And first I was hesitant because of my background. And we mentioned I'm part of the problem, not the, I'm like, I don't know if I feel comfortable. So I struggled a little bit. And this old timer where I used to work at in the residential program that practically did his whole life in prison, he said, what are you doing today? You're doing the right thing. You're working. That's not you anymore. What are you scared of? If anything, you can be in a platform to help those behind us. So I like, okay. So I got green light from two people. Then we interviewed. And one of the things that I was asked was if I'm going to have the passion for this, which I do today. And the main thing is for me not to get in trouble again. And I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity. Because today I'm able to come in here with passion. We make sure that whatever cases is there, that we connect with each individual that's given an offer. I decided to come here, and I think it was one of the best decisions I made, because now in this arena, in this platform, I'm the solution today, And not only that, I have an awesome partner. We work like hand in hand. If he's not here, I'm holding it down for the whole thing. If I'm not here, the same thing. At the end of the day, when I go home and go to sleep, I'm looking at like, what, I did great today. Maybe I could do better. Or I need to work on this. That's how my conscience talks to me, and how serious I take this job. And it's not only a job, it's a lifestyle for us today, a new lifestyle. Coming in, We're helping out in the community. We're making a difference on people's lives.
The work that you and everyone in the Alternatives to Incarceration Unit, for that matter, does certainly impacts the community and changes people's lives. I'd say a lot of the work done in this office does. And we like to be as transparent about the things happening here with our greater Staten Island community as possible. With that, I'm going to turn the microphone over to my colleague Sophie Selwood to tell you about what RCDA has been up to in the courtroom as of late.
Hello, my name is Sophie Selwood, and you're joining me here in the Courtroom Corner.
Court is now in session.
Today, I'd like to call your attention to the case of Kevin Willis, which was recently on trial. Over 2 years ago, Willis, then a patient at Richmond University Medical Center, subjected a nursing assistant to repeated sexual attacks as she attempted to render basic care to him. Willis was held accountable for his inexcusable criminal conduct when a Staten Island jury found Willis guilty of attempted rape in the first degree, the top count indicted against him, and 2 counts of sexual abuse in the third degree, among other charges earlier this month. Being a healthcare worker is an incredibly difficult job, and those who take it on deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. Acts of violence, least of all acts of sexual violence, committed against these essential workers will never be tolerated in our borough. As always, RCDA commends our partners in the NYPD for their assistance throughout the course of this case. Further gratitude is owed to our very own Assistant District Attorneys Amir Fidel and Dana Gambardella, who ensured that this serious crime was met with serious consequences in the courtroom. We also thank the men and women of the jury and Justice Gray for their dedicated public service and commitment to justice. I, for one, think this is a fine example of law and order, one even better than what you'd get on your TV screen, because this version protects and defends real people. And that is why our borough remains one of the best and safest places to call home in the country. And with that, the Courtroom Corner is adjourned.
Thanks, Sophie. Now, Austin, I want to return to the conversation that we were having before the Courtroom Corner, where you were talking about being able to make a difference in people's lives. Do you mind discussing what your approach is as an advocate and how you feel you're able to have the greatest impact on the people you encounter?
Advocacy is person-centered. It's about what they want. You know, we can set up a whole bunch of numerous treatment plan. If that person don't know, this is what I want to do, we got to meet them where they're at.
I think your backgrounds are part of what make you so interesting to talk to, first of all, and part of the reason why I wanted to have you on the podcast. And the second reason was because something you've already noted is how impactful the work that you do is. It makes a real difference in people's lives. In the time that you've been with the office and working in this role, is there a particular person or case that you feel touched you the most?
I'm probably a couple of days shy of being 4 years in this office already. So I got so many cases that I could think of and so many people that we help every day. But one individual in particular that always grabbed my attention, I don't want to put his name out there because I haven't asked him for consent. But this individual, from the first moment I met him, like rock bottom, I actually met her outside of Borough Hall on a bench. Almost looked like he was on his way out. I walked by and I was like, I just can't go on with my day without talking to the individual and seeing if he needs anything, because I would hate for me to leave from here today and then come back and saying something happened to that individual. For some reason, he just caught my attention. I approached the individual. He was going through a medical episode. I ended up trying to get a homeless shelter to come get him. I also called the ambulance for him. And this is about almost 3 years ago. And just was a difficult client. Maybe got arrested twice a week, coming back and forth. Would never come back to court unless they will pick him up. Unless they issue him a warrant and then they'll pick him up right back in the street. I'm talking about hundreds of cases. And this individual did not want to do anything. From that moment that I met him in that day in the bench, for some reason, he attached to me and I was able to navigate him through certain services, but not all the time. He'll disappear on me for a couple of months. Then I'll find him. It was so crazy that I would literally go outside, like when they were calling his cases, like, hold on, Judge, I think I know where he's at. And I'll go outside the courtroom, go look for him and bring him into court so at least his case could be seen. But today, he's in a rehab center. He's already been in the rehab center for about a year. He's been doing great. He goes into church. He's getting certifications for all type of things. And these are the type of cases that makes it worth everything that we do, because seeing an individual like that, seeing him how he was in rock bottom and had hundreds of cases on him and probably was eventually going to go to jail for maybe a year or two. And seeing him today and that he's sober for almost over a year and how he still connects with me after it's been 3 years. He's doing things that I never thought this individual would be able to do. Seeing him today makes it all worthwhile. When you're in recovery, you're in recovery for life. It's hard to stay on that sobriety. So you have to come with a village, and with that village comes support. It comes guidance. You can't always do it on your own. I'm glad that he still to this day has me as one of his support system, has me as one of his mentors. And I'm glad that I'm able to be in this position to give him that type of guidance or support.
I'm glad David mentioned that there's a lot of success stories that we have of individuals that been through treatment that took advantage of the offer. One of them had a young lady that bad, numerous cases, fentanyl, heroin, crack user, xylazine. She was at the point where her moms would reach out. She's out in the street. She would get arrested. We'll do an offer, leave, won't come back to court, get picked up on warrants. And the most important thing is that David and I don't give up, because sometimes it may take a person to fall, a bunch of times and have reoccurrence. We don't use the word relapse anymore. For her, we didn't give up on her. Eventually, she went to a 28-day rehab. During that 28-day, they gave her an extension and she stood there. She would reach out to us and I'm like, whoa, she's trying. Did what she had to do. And then eventually she completed, became a peer mentor, is working for another company now. That's a success story of someone that I'm like, wow, it's not in our DNA to give up. A lot of time, even people in treatment would relapse. And, it's okay. That's why we're offering you this, to get you to where you need to be. And we have one more gentleman that also the same thing, back and forth to court. He's been in treatment going on like a year and a half, almost 2 years. And this was an individual that we would run into him, record another case, and this is what he would say. This is it. No more. I'm going to do what I have to do and all that. Then he would be MIA. Next thing you know, boom, arrested again. Same story. Now I'm, it's like, man. But to see that he's been in this residential program for almost 2 years, like, whoa, this is working. And it comes from the passion, not giving up, just being there. Okay, you fell, let's brush yourself up, or let's try it again. So the success story, we have a bunch of, which is awesome.
And that's a testament to the work that you and the entire unit does and how impactful it is on people's lives. Reviewing everything that you've said today, Austin, speaking about your own experience where you were told that you were part of the problem and not the solution, you're certainly part of the solution now. And people that are in situations like these, it must be incredibly isolating. And I'm saying that as someone who thankfully has never had such an experience, but knowing that you are people that have had that experience and you're able to extend a lifeline, even to just let someone know, we don't think you're the problem, we're trying to help you with your problem, is incredible. The work that you do, there are people that are here today because of the things that you've done. And so I want to thank you for taking the time to be here with me and speaking about your experiences. But I also want to give you an opportunity to share any last thoughts or words that you may have before we part ways today.
I definitely want to give big shout outs to the DA, Michael McMahon, for just looking past that piece of paper, which is called a record of ours, and seeing something in us that was like, we need to bring these guys on board. And we definitely won't let this office down. Big shout outs to our chief, Jason Cohan. He's been here since the beginning. He provided us support, seen something in me that I didn't even see in myself. And the whole ATI unit, me and Austin don't do this by ourselves. Everybody has their unique role and everybody has their special place. And we couldn't be us without anybody in our unit. So big shout out to the unit. Big shout out to the DA, Michael McMahon.
Same. I want to thank DA Michael McMahon for giving me the opportunity and believing in myself and David, the vision that he has, and also with Jason Cohen and Josh people. They're the top people in the ATI unit. And one of the things that I'm extremely grateful for is that they listen to us. And a lot of time, case may be on record and they will reach out and what do you think? Can we get a place for this person or can we do this? So it's a whole team effort. All together, we become one. If you have 5 fingers, you become one, you got the fist, you can make an impact. And it comes from all the way from the top to where we're at in the ATI unit. And I'm grateful for that opportunity to be a part of this because it's important. One of the things we didn't touch on is the overdoses. We do Narcan training, which I'm extremely grateful that we can do presentations in the school, reach out to individuals as a whole. And with the community, the overdoses have reduced. Unfortunately, the fatal overdoses, we can't get everyone, but we're making a positive impact and reaching out to the families as well, connecting them to services because once you lose a loved one, the pain, grief that you go through, and I don't care how much therapy in the world, that stuff doesn't go away because you miss your loved ones. But we do all this as a team, the whole unit, the whole DA's office, man, and I'm thankful for that.
And I'm very thankful that both of you took the time out of your busy schedules to sit down and have a chat with me. I appreciate everything that you've shared with us today. So thank you both very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Before I started working in this office, I wasn't even aware that alternatives to incarceration programs existed, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. We don't just dole out prosecutions and punishments at the RCDA because the preservation of public safety can be accomplished through more channels than you might initially believe. I hope today's episode and the experiences of David and Austin emerge as a testament to that. I have included Austin and David's contact information, as well as resources linked to our Alternatives to Incarceration Unit in the show's description. If you or someone you know is struggling with mental health illness or substance abuse disorders, know that you are not alone. There are people like David and Austin in our office and across our community ready and willing to help however they can. To all of our listeners, thank you for tuning in to the Gazette Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show and will join us again next month. Until then, stay safe and be well.